Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts back. Once again, another reaction for you guys. It's almost 5 a.m. This freaking sucks, but it doesn't matter because I'm here today to check out the very first episode of She-Hulk. Don't forget the subtitle, Attorney at Law. This is episode 1 of the show titled A Normal Amount of Rage. Interesting title. I don't know what a normal amount of rage is when you talk about the Hulk and She-Hulk, but it is what it is. So I'm excited for the show. I really am. There were people, of course, from the get-go when they announced this back at D23 in 2019, the show was announced. There were people immediately already against it. But for me, at the end of the day, regardless of the marketing, I try to give most stuff that I'm at least interested in a shot, because who knows, it may end up being fantastic, amazing, and based off of the premiere earlier this week in regards to showing the first 4 episodes of She-Hulk from the premiere, people have been saying that those episodes are really good. People are excited. There was people going in that really weren't that interested and came out saying that they really enjoyed it. So I'm hopeful that this is going to be fun, and there's going to be a lot of fourth wall breaking. We've been hearing about that, and a lot of meta jokes in regard to the MCU. So I'm excited for this. I really am. And I was like, for years, been questioning, when are we going to see She-Hulk in the MCU? Like, at some point the character has to pop up, right? So I'm kind of surprised it took this long, but at the same time, it may have been due to other things going on. Shut up, computer. It may have been doing other things going on in regards to the Hulk rights, which I don't think that really affects She-Hulk. But at the end of the day, I'm excited we're getting this show. And let's just get into it now, guys. Stop talking. Let's just get into it and see what they show us. Let's go. Episode 1, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. Let's go.
What is the responsibility of those with power? Do they merely have an obligation? But today, you, the jury, can prove that's not the case. Show them that they will be held accountable. I don't have a Savage Jen Walters look. There it is. Now it's perfect. Okay. Really? Yeah, about that.
Hello.
It's true. I am a Hulk. A few months ago, I went on a road trip with my
Okay,
cousin
so they released this clip, I believe, yeah.
Steve Rogers did not have a girlfriend before he went into the service.
Says who?
The History Channel. So
The History
here
Channel.
comes Captain America. Captain America wasn't virgin.
It's a bad wreck.
The inhibitor. Jen, get away from me.
Yep.
I'm bleeding. Get away.
Nope. Too late. Oh shit. I wonder how far she traveled. Oh no.
Oh, girl, what happened to you? Can I borrow somebody's phone? Oh, yeah,
Here's all the phones.
What's up?
Oh god.
What are you doing?
Fine.
Leave her alone.
You with anyone? You two gonna talk to us?
Exactly. Oh! That was Bruce. Oh wow.
This is where I spent a blip fixing myself and integrating the Hulk banner identities.
Okay. Interesting.
Sakaar and Class A courier craft. They're probably trying to deliver a message. I gotta get to the bottom of that. You know, we're
Yeah.
just gonna find you when you're a Hulk. My blood got into your system, and after the wreck, and you got a lethal dose of gamma radiation.
Lethal? So I turn into a Hulk now, too.
I have been analyzing your blood,
Yes.
and in conclusion, my arm is healed, and now I'm able to be my fully integrated self again.
That's interesting.
Smug.
That's how you fixed it, okay.
Smart Hulk.
Well, it's pretty smug. Now fix me. Get me
There's
back
no
to
fixing you,
normal.
I'm sorry.
This is not going away.
What do you mean?
Food.
You feeling better? you can't go back to your job.
She does, though.
You stay
Flashbacks,
there,
so we know, but,
figure out how to control your Hulk self.
Well, how long is that going to take?
15 years, give or take.
15
Our
years?
top priority is to control when you turn.
Mm-hmm. Keep eating.
It feels like if I don't transform, I'm going to die.
Yes!
Why are you talking to me like I'm a stray horse?
Jen, you're the only one in there.
As far as I can tell.
As far as I can tell.
You, Jen,
This is
think I'm
okay.
jealous. Is that what I'm?
It's just me.
It's just me.
First time, it
Just
was
me.
so intense I could barely remember what was happening.
Usually I'd fall out of a jet, or I'd get knocked out by a robot, and I'd wake up as Banner. Or
That may work.
Natasha for a little while would tell me a lullaby.
Yeah, the lullaby.
Walk me through it.
You know the damage you can cause?
I mean, we just saw it.
I mean,
So-
one mistake, one freak out is literally
Mhm.
life or death.
Oh my god, it's in the trailer.
Oh, a normal amount of rage.
You do revert
Title.
back to Gen 4 when you sleep.
Was the air horn really necessary?
A bit further.
Just trying to show you how it's done.
Careful. Oh no.
Little punk.
Oh my god. That's a lot.
Well, Tony mostly drank, sat around, complaining about.
Can we see that?
Oh,
To see Tony drinking.
so when do you think I
Can go home.
leave?
Let's just focus.
Exactly.
On each day as they come.
So all of this just feels like projecting a lot of shit onto me.
The hair just grows.
No,
See?
I'm doing this. The idea of being a superhero is not appealing to me. I'm
Well, not yet.
And I'm not going to become you. You're not the only one.
What, you think you can
Uh-oh.
say a bunch of mean things like that and then take off?
Yes.
Yes! I didn't expect the punch. Are we gonna see a fight? Or uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ooh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Wow. I did not expect this, honestly.
See you at the next family dinner.
See ya, fuzzball.
What's the next family dinner?
Basically, I was right and Bruce was wrong.
Well,
Never have to be a Hulk.
what?
That my client was well within his right to protect his business.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yep.
Jennifer Walters, attorney at law.
Really? Oh!
I'm ready to give my closing argument now.
Now I am.
Did you see that ass? Like that ass?
That ass. Oh my god.
Deserved a diversion.
You're not drunk?
Captain America! Fuck!
And there we have it, guys. The first episode of She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Do not forget the subtitle. I think overall, this is a pretty good first episode in my personal opinion. I liked how they opened up with her giving this closing argument speech, and then talking to the audience. Oh, hi. Like you know, going back into the office and then fourth wall breaking. And then we flash back a few months prior. They had shown this clip. They released it, I think, earlier this week or last week of her and Bruce in the car. And then the wreck. Well, we didn't see the wreck. I think it cut before that. I didn't watch the clip, but I think someone was saying how it's just the ship showed up and then there was, you know, nothing after that point. But we see the wreck. We see the blood get into her, Bruce's blood and everything. And he had that device and he was explaining how it helps him turn back to Bruce, you know. And that was something that we had saw, of course. I think the first time we saw it was in Shang-Chi, where we saw Bruce in that after credit sequence. And now we get to kind of understand what was happening, and he created this device, and it was a prototype. Of course, it didn't stop the bleeding, obviously, because since he was back to human form, he was going to bleed. And because if he didn't have the device on, I'm assuming there would be no blood if there was a wreck, because he'd be Smart Hulk, essentially. So for the first two times she turns, she doesn't remember what happened. The first time she turns, she's just running through the woods. She wakes up still in the woods, and then comes across some sort of bar or something, and she gets all like dressed up, and they're putting makeup on her and stuff. These girls, they thought that she was, you know, attacked or something, or who knows? They were like they weren't trying to. They were making some assumptions, but they just had no idea. But I guess she called Bruce. Like, I guess she did, because she got handed a bunch of phones to call him. So maybe she did get a hold of him. But then, of course, there was these guys, and I'm like, oh, God, we're going to go that typical route of where they're going to be over the top, and they're going to attack her. They, not necessarily, but these three guys were being a little too much, and so she turned around screaming at them. They freaked out, and, of course, Bruce, as Smart Hulk, knocked her out, and then she woke up once again. So twice in a row, she got knocked out and woke up in a place she doesn't recognize. She's like, I'm in the woods, and then now she's in Mexico. And we had seen bits of this in the trailer. We had seen the little beach house, if you will, and we've seen a little bit of the actual room, like where they did the testing, whatever, like we've seen in the trailers, where she's in that box, like that glass box thing, and kind of to test her limits, and then of course she hulks out and gets out. So we saw a little bit of it, but we got to have a real big explanation about what happened. So apparently during the 5-year, you know, like not time jump, because they had to live through the 5 years of Thanos' snap, that Bruce and Tony created this oasis, if you will, away from everybody on the beach in Mexico. And Tony apparently just sat there and drank mostly while Bruce did all the work as Smart Hulk. Or I guess at this point he was learning, or he was still adapting to Smart Hulk. I'm not really sure, but there was a lot of explanation to like where he got all this stuff, like his bar and this little house, and then of course the tech room where he was figuring all this stuff out in regards to becoming merged with the Hulk side of everything, and then Bruce into, as we know, Smart Hulk. So they did a pretty good job diving in a little bit more of that, and of course having Tony involved, because timeline-wise it makes sense, because where was this place before, you know, this show? And there was an explanation. It was during the 5-year, you know, time where half of everything was gone, until of course the Avengers fought back and changed everything and brought everybody back, essentially. So that was a good explanation on that. I liked how they handled her progression in terms of her just bypassing a lot of stuff, because if you look in the comics of She-Hulk, and not just one particular run of the character, but they always approach She-Hulk a little bit differently than Bruce in terms of Jennifer and how she transforms and everything and how that goes about. So what they did is that after the 2 times that she changed, first in the woods after the wreck, and then the second time when those guys were just bothering her, she doesn't remember. But then when she turns and gets out of that, you know, little box essentially to test her limits to see, because Bruce obviously wants to do the science of everything. Okay, he's trying to protect her essentially, because he had to go through so much, like so many problems and issues, that it makes sense that he wants to be very thorough with her, because he's assuming she's going to go through the same thing. And of course, as we know, this was not going to happen, but he didn't know that, and she didn't know that. So it makes sense. But then she just kind of shows there's no one else here. It's just me. And I think they kind of implied that slightly, because her blood, her DNA sequencing of the Hulk now within her in terms of the gamma radiation, healed his arm. So we had seen in the trailers that he was essentially healed again. Like his arm wasn't destroyed like it was when he snapped, of course, to bring everybody back in Endgame. So that was the explanation. Her blood with the gamma radiation exposure from his blood created some sort of thing to where it could be a healing factor that his healing factor couldn't fix. It couldn't fix his arm. But now we have this. So that's interesting. People might say that as, oh, well, they're using really, you know, basic things to fix problems. The thing is, they could have left that permanent to where Bruce was always going to have the sling in his arm and he was never going to be able to properly use it because of the snap. I kind of like they found a way to do this, because it just goes to show that introducing She-Hulk, there's a lot of things potentially that could change and everything in regards to just how stories are going to progress. So I'm fine with this choice, because the fact is that she does have a different DNA sequence, okay? They are related, but you get what I'm saying? Like, it's a very different thing. Plus, we like I said, in the comics, it's very different. Obviously, this is not the comics, but you get my point. So they showed the differences there and how she's not being controlled by another, like, as he's coined it, another person at the wheel, basically controlling, which, of course, that was the Hulk for Bruce for so many years. I like how they showed some of the like yoga type stuff, and she's not really taking it too seriously, and she's getting stressed out and she's ready just to leave because she wants to go back to her life, because she's like, I'm not going to be a superhero. Like, well, then we saw, of course, in court, she had to be at that instance, and that kind of shows that things are never going to be the same, especially now, because in that full courtroom, they saw what happened. The fight between Bruce and Jennifer was honestly surprising. It was interesting for sure. Obviously, it wasn't a real fight. They were just kind of, play fighting, if you will, but not, because they weren't really hurting each other necessarily. There was some funny moments within it, especially where he like rams into her and she like pulls on that tree. I don't think it was coconut, like watermelon or not watermelon, but something like some sort of fruit was hitting his face. And that was funny. And they destroyed the bar by accident, so they had to fix the bar. And it was good. It was good. Now, something that I was kind of, I guess, expecting more of, but then again, it's the first episode. We have to do the origins, essentially, of what happened. I thought it was interesting how they started off with a few months after what occurred, and then we kind of backtrack a little bit, and then we continue on the court scene. Because they could have easily had that court scene, like, stop whenever she turns into She-Hulk in front of everybody. They could have cut, and then the opening of episode 2 is what happens in the courtroom. But since I guess it was so short that it didn't need to be cut or put into episode 2. So that was pretty smart. But it was cool. So now word's going to get out. Jennifer Walters is a Hulk. She-Hulk. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how this really affects her, because only a few set of people knew the truth. And now it's going to spread like wildfire. There's another Hulk. But they're going to notice right away, and I'm hoping that this is the case. Now, obviously, you can't really control the narrative when it comes to certain things, but I feel like they're going to control the narrative to where they better tell the truth about what occurred, because she didn't Hulk out and start attacking anybody or causing a whole bunch of damage. She protected people. She only Hulked out to protect the people in that courtroom. Don't even know why that... I forget what's that character's name that showed up? I can't remember, but this showed up and just started like attacking. I don't even know. No real explanation. I guess we'll find in episode 2 what the purpose of that was, just busting in like that. But yeah, and this guy who was like argumentative at the beginning, saying, let me just do the closing argument, let me do this stuff, and then he says next to her before, of course, she goes up to give her closing argument, and of course, here she comes busting through the wall. He's like, don't screw this up, and like, just shut up, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're just being an ass just to be an ass. So yeah, we don't need you to talk. Because it's a little ridiculous. Because it feels kind of forced, especially during that sequence where he's sitting next to her in court and he's like, don't fuck this up. He didn't say that, but don't fuck this up, essentially, is what he's trying to say without saying that. Don't screw this up. Seriously? She knows that. So yeah, overall, it was a pretty good episode. It was. And I thought that little after credit sequence or whatever, I guess like a mid credit sequence, but that was pretty good. Bruce just admits, yeah, Steve did lose his virginity. She's like, Captain America, fuck. That was good. That was good. So good first episode. What do you guys think of the episode? I'm curious to know what you thought about it. Are you excited to continue the show? What do you think about the origins? Whatever thoughts you have, guys, please let me know in the comments below. Talk to you guys soon. Peace out.